Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, I am Rowan de Pomerai. I am the CEO of the DPP. Just very, very briefly, for anybody who doesn't know, what is the DPP? Because I think it's very important to understand what I'm going to tell you. So we describe ourselves as the International Network for Media and Technology, as was just mentioned, over 500 member companies, crucially including over 150 media companies. The reason that I explain this is just because everything that I'm about to tell you is not really my wonderful insight. It's the insight of experts from a range of our member companies. So we say that we provide them with the insight and connections they need to do business better. And I'm going for the maximum number of uses of the word insight. I'm going to talk about one of those particular insight reports, which is a piece that we released this year called AI in Media, What Does Good Look Like? So, I think it's worth starting with a quick level set. This might sound like a dumb question in 2024, what is AI? But the thing is that I actually hear it used and defined in so many different ways that we often find it quite useful to just give a quick definition. And at the DPP, we tend to think about AI in a very broad way. We actually, in the report, refer back to probably the original definition of the term from 1956, when John McCarthy gathered a bunch of experts and engineers in computer science for a sort of almost like a summer school in an attempt to find how to make machines use language, form abstractions and concepts, and solve the kind of problems now reserved for humans. So we like to think about AI as a very broad discipline. To put it another way, if I give you a sort of a crazy Venn diagram, this is simplified from a paper from the University of Hohenheim in Stuttgart. We think of AI as the broad overall discipline, of which probably the most important element over the last couple of decades is machine learning. And from there, recently, a subset of machine learning has emerged called generative AI, all about actually creating content. So that's how we think about it. That's how I'm going to use these terms. However, my favorite definition comes from Larry Tesler in the 1970s, who simply said artificial intelligence is whatever hasn't been done yet. I think this is the practical, everyday definition of AI that actually matters. It's the term that gets used to describe the new shiny thing that is coming along. And as a piece of technology settles in, it ceases to be referred to AI as AI and just gets referred to as a feature. So whatever it is, however you define it, there's a lot of money going in. This is looking between 2015 and 2022. This is in billions of US dollars, total corporate investment in AI. I don't have the up-to-date running total for 2024. I don't sadly have access to real-time information about every company's spending, but I would be exceptionally surprised if it didn't top 100 billion this year. There's a lot of money going into this stuff. But what about in our industry? What about in media specifically? Well, last year we did a survey piece. We worked with a whole range of media organizations for a piece called Future Ready Media Businesses. And we asked them about their use of a bunch of different technologies. When it came to AI and machine learning, over 75% had adopted AI within their business. So that sort of seems positive. It seems like we're getting a pretty high degree of maturity. But while we all get excited about generative AI, my little note of warning is not to ignore the sort of quiet revolution that's taking place. We're about to publish a piece called the Media CTO Survey. We interviewed 26 media company CTOs about many things, including their investment priorities and their project focus. And while 62% of them told us that they were focused in their top 3 priorities for the next year in terms of implementation of AI and automation, only 23% included generative AI in that list. So the reality is that there's an awful lot of conversation about Gen AI, and I definitely don't want to imply that it isn't important. It really is. But the reality of the industry today is that AI for automation and some of these machine learning use cases that we've been seeing for maybe a decade or more are actually delivering a lot more in a lot more media companies. It's even more stark when you look at when we ask those people, those CTOs of media companies, whether each technology was significantly delivering strategic value. Less than 10% thought that Gen AI is so far today. That doesn't mean that they don't think it will in future, of course. But as one contributor to our AI and media report put it, the technology is worth the hype, but our industry isn't ready to leverage it yet. We're still struggling with basic automation, with getting our data in order, and so on. And I think that is the sort of the summary of where we're at. Now, in that report, we did a maturity analysis of the use of AI right across the content supply chain in 14 different areas. We broke them down into these broad categories of content creation, fulfillment, and consumption. And we assessed the maturity of the use of AI today and the potential it has for the future. I definitely don't have time to go through what we found in all of those areas, but what I will show you is the punchline, the graphic that tries to summarize it all. We call it the DPP Media AI Radar. And what I'll explain briefly, so you're looking here at the content supply chain represented as a circle, starting with ideation and planning, going all the way through creation and fulfillment and consumption. And then you have these two kind of colored lines. The blue one looks at the maturity so far today, and the pink one looks at our assessment of the potential of AI in each area. The further towards the outside of the circle, the greater the maturity or the greater the potential. And again, I don't have time to go through everything, so I want to call your attention to 3 areas. Do I have a pointer on here? No, okay, it doesn't matter. Versioning and localization, marketing and promotion, advertising and monetization. These are all areas where, number 1, the gap is quite large between potential and maturity, and number 2, the potential is seen as really high. And so if I give you one takeaway about where AI is making an impact and will make an impact very soon, it's these 3 areas, and it's worth noting they have something in common. They are all areas where we reuse, remix, adapt, edit, recut content. So whether it's translating that content into a different language or preparing it for a different audience, whether it's creating promotions and trailers and marketing assets, whether it's identifying how we can insert or put adjacent relevant advertising, these are all things that use existing content. That's where our experts saw the potential right now. However, we can't talk about AI without recognizing a range of challenges that there are about how people are using it. So very briefly, firstly, intellectual property is a key issue. I'm not going to give you the answers, but I'm just going to give you a very simple model of how we're thinking about this. If we have an AI model, there's 3 things that matter to me. Number 1, how was it trained? What is the training data that's gone into making that model work, and what was the IP around that? Can I be confident that the training data was ethically sourced? I may care about whether my own data has been used to train people's models. The second is the input or the prompt. So where we're using a Gen AI model, we're giving it some kind of information to work from. And increasingly, I'm talking to people in media companies who are concerned that their users are sort of dropping in corporate documents into a ChatGPT prompt and saying, summarize this for me. Okay, that's great, but do we know what's happening to that document that's been dropped in? And then the third is the generated output. If we're using Gen AI assets, are we confident about the rights that we have to use those, and that we're not going to be subject to some legal action from somebody who was involved in the training data, for example? And there are answers to all of these areas, but those are really the 3 sort of simple things that we think about. One vendor told me it's a transparency game. If you're not ready to be transparent, then big media organizations will not work with you. And I think that's where we're at today. We don't necessarily have all the answers, so we need to be transparent with each other and honest about how we're working. And then finally, we did quite a lot of work on how people are implementing AI within their organizations and what guardrails and policies they're putting around that. 2/3 of media organizations that were involved in this report told us that they had a sort of an approved list of Gen AI tools that their staff are allowed to use. Thankfully, I think, only a very small number said no Gen AI use is allowed. A small number allow anything, as one person put it. Our policy is go for it. We learn by making mistakes. But I think the overriding impression, the overriding sentiment that we get now is summarized really well by Ooyala in their Principles for Responsible AI. A human is always responsible. AI is a tool, and the person using that tool has to take responsibility for the way that they use it. Or, as a software vendor I spoke to for this report told me, we tell our developers, this is a co-pilot, which means you are the pilot. Now, I think it is the law that if you're talking about AI, you have to include an AI-generated image in your presentation. So here it is. This is just to warn you that as we come up towards Halloween, I'm about to show you the scariest set of statistics I've seen in the last couple of years. This is from a Deloitte report looking at attitudes to Gen AI. This was a huge survey. Forgive me, I forget the number of participants, so I'm not going to make it up on the spot, but it was in the thousands of participants. And they asked people whether they thought that Gen AI would give them answers that are factually accurate, and whether they believed that Gen AI would give them answers that are unbiased. And, I mean, quite pleasingly, actually, fewer than 1 in 5 people fully expected the answers from Gen AI tools to be both accurate and unbiased. So there is a healthy level of skepticism in the world, a healthy understanding about things like hallucinations that AI tools can have. But here's the problem. You would hope that people who've used the tools would be more aware of the shortcomings. You'd hope that people who've used the tools would have experienced those hallucinations and be more cognizant of them. Unfortunately not. Those who've used ChatGPT and other similar tools are almost twice as likely to believe that the answers it gives are always accurate and always unbiased. People get completely fooled by the confidence with which these tools give them answers. So if a human is always responsible, you better make sure that the humans in your business are well informed about how this technology works. So very briefly, these reports that we produce are generally available for those in DPP member companies. I'm very happy to give you all a free copy whether or not you work in a DPP member company, so there's a little QR code there if you would like to download it. And I'm just going to leave it up while I invite to the stage a man who's actually doing this for real and is far better qualified than me to talk about this stuff, Johan Lindén from SVT. Welcome, Johan.
Thank you.
So, I mean, I had to bring notes to remember all of the things you've done in your career, because it's not a simple introduction for you. Started as a child actor, love that. Became a journalist, ended up as head of News, Sport and Current Affairs at SVT. You've been Secretary General for CIRCOM. You've led industry R&D collaborations, and you have a PhD in journalism and 3 MSCs in IT and AI-related fields. So when I say you're better qualified than me, it's an understatement.
In theory.
Just tell us how you kind of come to your current role and what your attitudes are in general. You know, do you feel that your perspective on AI kind of matches the themes that I've given there, or do you have a different view?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I came to the position and role I have now I realized 2016 when I was managing R&D projects for the whole Swedish media industry called the Future of News in a Digital Environment or Market, that I didn't know enough. So I took time off and researched and studied in the UK, AI basically, UK is probably the best place. They have a Nobel Prize now in AI, so it's a very good environment for doing this. And then when I came back, I had worked with generative AI as a researcher, and I said, this is going to happen soon, and it's going to change everything. So we need to get on board on this. And then I became a managing engineer and got the AI teams. So I work day to day with actually implementing AI, generative AI, and other old school AI in our day-to-day workflow.
And I mean, for anybody who doesn't know, I mean, SVT tends to be, I would say, quite forward-thinking in terms of its approach to new technology. Tell me how that applies to AI. How have you been thinking about this within your business?
Could we show the slide?
Yeah.
Because I think this is interesting. I hope you can see it. 1.5 years ago, we did an analysis in what we created an AI council that was kind of across the whole company, where we had a legal team, we had the ethical team, the policy team, editorials, and my tech teams were there. So it was like not hierarchical. It was kind of the people that understood some things of AI, and we had many discussions to to give advice to the management board and the executive management board. And this analysis is from a cross-functional team that where do we think that generative AI will have an impact on the company? And as you can see, it's everywhere. It's in every workflow. It's both back office, down here it's planning, HR, IT support, procurement, and so forth, and finance, legal, and the bullets above is actually the creative process. Every kind of step in the workflow where we thought that this is going to happen now and for the future. We also could see that there were kind of different streams because SVT is producing both children's program, drama, entertainment, but a large amount is news and current affairs, and that was completely different challenges and ethics around these, because you can play around with the entertainment, but you can't play around with AI in news. So you have to kind of build different logics for this. But when we did this, we realized we have to move the whole company. Everyone needs to move together. And since then, we have iterated the organization 3 times around AI. Wow. And now we have AI hubs in every department that has Hack Fridays. Every Friday they spend a whole day testing AI tools and developing AI tools. And this is not the tech department, this is every department. And they will also have boot camps where we work around AI from different perspectives.
And I mean, I think this is one of the areas that you are being the most forward-thinking and certainly resonates with what I was sharing there about the need to make sure that people are informed. So that AI council, just give us a sense of kind of who's involved in that and sort of how senior within the organization, how junior within the organization does involvement in these things go?
We had the deputy CEO. She was leading it, and then we had the lowest was one of my developers, 26 years old.
Right.
And then it was everyone between in age and also, and the thing was we didn't talk about our positions at all. We talked about AI and what the impact. So we had all kind of generations that we have in the company and perspectives.
Right.
We have ditched that council now because we realized that after a year we had created the policy documents in all the areas, and now we need to get this into the whole organization. And then our CEO said that everyone in the company is responsible for their own journey. We will provide the tools, and you will get the time. And every normal responsibility now also includes AI.
Right.
So if you have an editorial responsibility, you're also the one deciding, can we use Midjourney? What kind of license should we have for Midjourney?
Right.
And so forth. But we're also developing our own tools. So one of the very important things was to not put all eggs in the OpenAI basket or Meta basket. So we created the SVT GPT, where you can choose from different large language models. You can choose OpenAI models or Meta models or open source models. And then and every employee has access
to that. So I want to come back to that SVT GPT in a moment. But you talked about giving people the time as well. I think this is underestimated. So you've run AI days for the whole company, haven't you?
Yeah. We had this Tuesday we had a whole AI day. And it's like a live broadcast from different locations. In Sweden we have 50 different locations. So we had the speakers from Kiruna in the north to Spain, actually.
Wow.
And it was a Teams broadcast, and where we had use cases from the company. We had colleagues from other companies coming in and showing what they had done.
Right.
And we had professors and also industry leaders.
It's a really remarkable investment of time across the business. Has that also been backed by financial investment? Because obviously, you can't do this stuff for free, can you?
No, we have extra money for 2 years and we have KPIs to what are the goals with this money to create this broad knowledge in the company. And this money, everyone in the company can pitch an idea. I think that my work can be helped by generative AI, and it's kind of a form they have to fill in, which is basically what the UX designer would, or a service designer in my teams would go out and ask. But they fill out the form themselves, so they show the need that is actually needed in their workflow. And then we score this. We in a week we got like 35 ideas, and now the bucket list is long.
I bet, yeah.
And so we have a person that really burns for this idea, and then we have a scoreboard where we have like a RISE model, reach how many can be affected by this idea in the company internally. This is internal tools we're talking about.
Yep.
Impact, what impact does it have? And we measure impact in creativity, efficiency, and cost cutting. So they have to define that I can spend my time doing something else if the AI can help me doing this. And then we have also confidence as a techie. Am I confident that we can do this with any large language model, or can we create like a workflow with different models? And then we also have a kind of what would be the cost in terms of actual sprints to make this. And we make it together with the department or the newsroom. So it's not a techie thing, it's a joint venture. So the money goes to these projects. And the first one we did was SVT GPT. And this Tuesday when we had the AI day, we have all our internal manuals in a chatbot indexed, so you can chat with all the manuals. And if you're familiar with AVID, it's 20,000 pages. It's kind of a big manual to read. Instead, you can now chat with it or any other techie manual and other manuals. And we will do this with all policy documents, HR documents, legal documents, basically all knowledge we have. And then we some of it we work with in Azure, Microsoft Cloud environment. And some we have created our own cloud environment we have a lot of editorial stuff that we don't want it to leave the company at all, and that's super safe but less powerful if you want to have a lot of GPUs and other cool stuff. Then we go to Microsoft.
So that SVT GPT, it's a lot of letters. So that's within your infrastructure, but using sort of models that are out there. You haven't developed your own foundational model, right? But you wanted to have your own instances that you could put your data into to keep it safe.
Yeah, so nothing is leaking, and the staff feel totally secure that their data stays there. And we can also monitor, which is important because it's hard to calculate the return of investment here. We can see exactly which department creates the most data feeds. And this, our SVT GPT, when you choose the model, you can see how expensive is this model, how many calculations can it do, and we will put on how much energy does it cost. Because different models draw different kind of energy, and that would be a water glass that is full or half full. So that's this part of teaching the staff what's going on here. And there's around 250 models that you can use. And they all have their caveats. And we thought that in order to teach our staff about the ramifications of different models, we need to show that there are different ones. And then you can press the information button and you can say, or you can read that this is a total black box. We have no idea what it's trained on. This is an open source model, which means that we actually know a bit more and we control it a bit more. And this is a model where they're transparent with the training data. And this is part of the learning curve to make this complex thing easier.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you've really kind of focused in on that point of transparency and openness within the organization. Have you needed to put some sort of stricter policies around this as well? Do you, for example, require staff to only use those SVT provided models, or is it a bit more open?
No, it's actually about creating a different culture where we, to a much greater extent, embrace this. and give help. Our legal department have created a lot of kind of help lists where they have gone through the terms and conditions of things that we can buy off the shelf, and said that if you have this license, beware of this, you have to check this, we don't have the rights, never use it for publication.
Right.
And that's kind of the extensive material they have provided. And then you have to have, as an employee, you have to have your manager's permission.
Right.
To use
Okay.
it.
Okay.
And I can, in this picture, which is kind of cool because this is something that we published. The lady walking is a Swedish program about music, and she's a musician, and she's walking in Texas, where the program is recorded. And if you can't really see this, but this is a fake image that we used. We didn't know about it. The traffic lights is going that direction, and the cars is going in that direction, because Midjourney didn't really know the traffic rules in the US. And when we saw this, we discovered this in the AI Council. We realized we can't control this.
No.
So we have around 5,000, 2,500 employees and 2,500 contractors. They're creative. They're going to use it.
Yep.
Everyone is going to use it when they see the power, and we have to give them the opportunity to actually do it. But we need to tell them how to do it.
Yeah, and that's what I love about your approach is based on informing and empowering people rather than trying to restrict it. You talked a little bit about providing the information, so I am intrigued. What would you say is the level of trust within the organization, and does it differ between different teams? Do you find, for example, that news teams who care about factual accuracy deeply are more wary than entertainment teams, for example?
I think it's also a personal thing.
Right.
If you like tech or not, and it's since we kind of have this, we're sharing knowledge every week, and these meetings are open, and you can join a chat in Teams or in Slack, and we have an ongoing discussion. You see that there are different issues. The issues in the drama department and in the entertainment department is that you can't really create nice fingers. That's over now, but they are more into the aesthetics of it. And also, do we actually own this image that we have made?
Right.
And in the news department, it's different issues. But they embrace it, but they use it differently. And they're also... they use it more for their own production and analysis. They don't publish anything.
Okay, I want to wrap us in just a sec so that we can take a question or two from the audience. But just briefly, with all of these projects flowing in, over the next sort of 6 months or a year, what do you think is going to be the most impactful new use case that you see within SVT?
So most of the things we have done so far is based on LLMs, that's large language models, and what's going to happen now is multimodal models, that is music and text and video and all kinds of creations. And we will have in 4 or 5 months, I think that we will have a whole workflow being AI powered. So if you have an idea, you can go to a full pilot in a day in something that will cost us like 2 or 3 months. And we can use our own staff because they are cloned. And we have a prototype now or a POC with this whole workflow. When you have an idea, you create a script. From the script, you create a storyboard. From the storyboard, you create videos. And from the videos, when you have the video, you put in faces and voices of real people that we couldn't hire because they're in the US making a movie now, but they have agreed that we can use them in this pilot. And then we have the opportunity to decide if we're going to buy this program or pay for it on the basis of that pilot. So in 6 months maybe, we will have that workflow.
Wow.
And that will make us much more productive when it comes to
you talk about return on investment, the ability to pilot things at much lower cost is going to really help.
So when we did it now, it was done in 2 days, the whole thing.
Wow.
So on the taxi here, I watched it, and it was impossible to see that this was a clone.
There you go.
They had
I could talk to
movements,
you
everything.
I could talk to you for hours about this, but I do want to wrap us there just so we can have a chance for a couple of questions. But thank you very much.
Thanks.
Absolutely fascinating. We actually don't have time for questions, but I'm sure.
Sorry.
No, I'm sure Rowan and Johan would be more than happy to answer your questions over a coffee or a lunch. So once again, thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks.